Oh yes, it's that time again to see something new in the yard, and that new item is a car. Unusually, I'm starting this video off from the inside of the car that has just arrived here, and that's because it's legging it down, as they used to say. Look, it is a Rover 45. No, it's not. It's a Rover 25. It's a facelift, so that does mean that it's not quite as nice as the older ones with that gear knob. Gosh, this is rather blurry. It's quite a nice car for what it is, but of course these are quite plasticky. An unusual circumstance this, because a chap just turned up at the yard yesterday and said he's been meaning to pop in and see me because he's got this Rover 25 that is surplus to requirements and it's taking up space outside the house, and if it doesn't go, he's going to have people shouting at him and being annoyed, and he doesn't really want that. So he's quite keen to offload it on me. Stop raining. Best be quick. This Rover 25 here has kind of turned up here, and I almost feel like I've had no say in it. The chap just brought it down and basically gave me 2 sets of keys, and he was just walking away. So why? That's the question. A few years back I had this phone call about 10:30 at night asking if I could go and rescue this particular Rover, and it was this one. Some young chap had managed to hit the curb and bust a couple of tyres and ruin the alloys as well, and so I picked it up, and this car spent a night in the yard, and the next day I put some wheels on it, and these are the wheels, which are actually off a Rover 214 SEI. As soon as he drove it in, I recognised it because of the wheels and the sound. Apparently this car's had quite a lot of money spent on it. It's been looked after, but it has been a bit dented as well. That was down to a hit and run accident. And then there's another one just there. Apparently somebody kicked it. That's to do with the old parking walls. It's true, people do get rather angry on parking, don't they? Because you want to park your own car outside your own house, as if it matters that much. Does it matter enough to actually kick someone's car for being outside your house? No, but it happens. And not only does it happen to other people, but it happens to me. I don't mean my car has been kicked, but I mean that this car has been kicked, and if this is now my car, then my car's been kicked by somebody who doesn't even know me over an instance that's got nothing to do with me, which is even more unfair. Anyway, besides that, it's all okay, and it's even got a tow bar on the back. I do love a tow bar. Look at that. That's a big sticky up tow bar, isn't it? And the other side's okay. So what else is there to talk about? Well, it's quite steamed up in here. So there's some damp. There's quite a bit of damp, in fact. I think it smells a bit damp, and the floor looks a bit damp. Rather typically, the boot doesn't open, not the fob anyway. And of course, Rover in their infinite wisdom got rid of the button, so you can't just manually open it. So that means it's down to pulling the thing off of the back and fixing that. Another fault I've found so far is that doesn't work. I wonder if that one does. That would come in handy actually with all this damp here, but that one doesn't. And you know how these doors automatically lock when you set off? Yep, they lock. You set off, you get to the gate, and you can't get out because it's got deadlocks on it. So once that's locked, you can't open that, and even you pull this up, it doesn't unlock, which is curious. I've never known one to do that before. It's quite nice being this light colour, makes it feel a bit more airy. And all these vents are okay as well. That's an unusual one. Let's start the thing up. That's a lovely starter, is that. So now we're going to find out whether the aircon is gassed, because if it is, the windscreen will demist quite quickly. No smoke. There we go, it's locked itself. Oh, can you hear that clattering sound? There's a clattering sound going on next to it. And normally whilst you're driving a car and you can hear clattering sounds, that's not a good thing. But in this instance, it is a good thing, and I'll show you why. Because right next to me is a box full of beer, and that's a good thing. That's what I got this morning. I just got called over by the chap in the garage and said, "You like your strange beers, don't you?" "Yes, I do." "Here, I had all these given to me. I don't really like them. So, thank you very much." But that's nothing to do with the car, is it? No. Except that they are in the car. So yeah, it is to do with the car. One slight concern about this car was the coolant, because there were no coolant in the expansion bottle yesterday. A coolant leak is not a good thing, if that's what it is. It didn't have any coolant in the expansion tank, so it must have gone somewhere. Now hopefully this is one of those glitches where it's disappeared for some rather strange reason that's completely unexplained. Because I've topped it up and I'm going to test drive it and see whether it goes down. Maybe moving forward with the door open will stop it from wanting to lock itself until you get to a certain speed. That's not the most practical thing to be doing long term, and I can just replace that switch if I've got one. I probably have. Oh, it's still locked itself. It locked. That's annoying. This could be going on for a while. Definitely the best circumstances to take a car for a test drive is when you're going to be stuck in traffic. Any of these people are going to let me out, or will they just block it up again? I bet they will. I bet they're going to block you. I was here long before you and you, so I'm going anyway. I am not really a fan of diesel. I just find them to be a bit like anybody else would do, really. A bit rough, a bit agricultural, a bit noisy, a bit unresponsive. As much as I dislike diesels, I do quite like the L series, which is really strange because it is a proper old style diesel where it sounds rough and it's very unresponsive. So I wonder why that is. Maybe it's because it's from a time where they were more concerned with economy and reliability than smoothness and speed. Yeah, that'll be it. One thing it doesn't have is a great deal of power or smoothness, but they are economical. And I put my foot down in third gear here, and look at that. Not loads and loads have happened. It does not go particularly fast. Certainly not in any kind of exciting, rip your neck off way. It just picks up. Just picks up and goes. It's adequate. Do the job. As is this car. You know I like Rover, so it's always in with a good chance of, you know, getting my approval. And these always do. And this one, it drives spot on, drives absolutely straight, no knocks, gearbox is as you'd expect it to be, and a 25 with a diesel engine is just a happy little diesel car. They are very much like small dogs, small happy dogs that don't want to bite you. That's what one of these is. You never imagine getting bitten by a Rover 25. It's just not in their character. Performance go. Probably should be a bit quicker than that actually. This car is called Eric. I decided that straight away. And like some car, no, I'm getting deja vu here. Maybe this is to do with my live stream last night. Live streams, normally you do them and you can't even remember what you talked about. You can't remember what you covered, which is great because it means that other people won't remember either, and then you can just repeat the whole thing again next time. But I don't know whether I talked about this in my other video that I haven't made yet. This car is called Eric. It's just one of those, it's that name. The name just sprung straight out of me. There's nothing contrived about it. It just suits being called Eric, and I don't know why. Anyway, besides it being called Eric, it is quite a nice car to drive. Further to add, the brakes are nice and firm, it stops well, it doesn't stink of diesel, it doesn't smoke, it doesn't do any of the things that you wouldn't really want a car like this to do. So I'm quite happy with that. I could quite happily just live with this as an everyday car, I think, except for two minor things, and that is I've never been a fan of the facelift, either the exterior or the interior, because simply the Mark 1 was just better made, and we all know that. It wouldn't really drive any better if it was new, except maybe the gearbox might feel a bit more slick or something like that. Maybe it wouldn't feel damp inside, maybe it wouldn't smell, maybe it wouldn't have as many knocks. Oh, actually, just here where that Ford is there, this is where I picked this car up and pulled it onto the back of my truck. Isn't that interesting? No, it's not. It's not anything. It's just what happened. In fact, it should be the kind of thing I wouldn't even bother saying anything about because of how uninteresting it actually is. But it's too late now. I've done it. Now, how will it pick up if I send it up Kiln Lane? When I say send it, I mean drive it up Kiln Lane. You can't really send it, can you? You've got to be in it for a start. Wow, that's it. You don't get very far in second gear before you have to change, which is great. It means you don't get the opportunity to do anything too stupid. Third gear is the one that you want for going quickly. These can be made to go very quickly. In fact, I used to have one. I used to have what I called the ZR Super Diesel. Yes, it was already the MG ZR version of this was already slightly more tuned up, with 115 brake horsepower, I believe, rather than 101 like these have. But with SD1 injectors, or is it SDI injectors? I think SDI injectors, and a couple of tweaks here and there, suddenly you've got something that will really fling you back and leave everything in a cloud of smoke, and that was the embarrassing side of it. It's all very well going quickly, but do you really want people disliking you for it? And I think the answer to that is no, really. Why would anybody want to be disliked for having fun? Oh, fun is it? Is that your idea of fun, is it? Leaving me in a cloud of smoke everywhere you go. One of my reasons for taking this car for a drive at the moment is to see whether that coolant drops, to see if it's leaking out anywhere. Because when I was looking under it before, I couldn't see anything. And if it is, then I've got a fix to do. And if it isn't, then I haven't. So giving it a drive of about 10 miles or so should be enough to see something happen. And I can tell you, if the coolant has dropped, then I'm going to get rid of my beard. And if it hasn't, I'll let the beard stay. Now then, Little Eric. Little Eric's going on a torque test, which is one thing I quite like to do, going up Blackstone Edge, to see if I need to change out of fifth gear. And so far, he's pulling rather well indeed. Yes, I'm in fifth gear and he's just wanting to yank his way up the hill, which is rather glorious indeed. We haven't got to the difficult part just yet. There's two purposes for this. One is it tests the torque, and the other it tests any likelihood of overheating. There we are. Yeah, still in 5th gear, and I'm going to have to slow down because it is accelerating. Oh, going up the hill. Thought I was going to go a bit too fast around there then. And oh dear, I've dropped below a certain revolution and now it's slowing down. Gosh, it's so unexpectedly windy and cold out here. And wet. So far, so good. The only curious thing noticing here is the temperature gauge sits just ever so slightly above the middle. But it's doing that while I'm rolling down a hill. I've been rolling down a hill for about a mile. Normally the temperature gauge will just drop and drop until you've got no heat left in your coolant. But not this one. Interesting. So, what do I think of Eric then? Eh? What do we think of it? What do you think of it? Well, as you can see, I've still got my beard. And that's because my battery needs charging in my doings. But as it goes, it didn't lose any coolant anyway. But I did decide it's time to get rid of my beard. But I couldn't do because there was no charge left in the battery. So what a higgledy-piggledy mess that is. How confusing for you. I do apologise. Nothing like Nigel though. You'd think he'd be the same, but nothing comes close to giving that sense of joy of having the hands on the wheel of this car. Oh yes, and to think I can just drive this every day I want to, and I can park it up and look at it and wish I'd watched it a bit more. You know, it's just brilliant. Isn't this odd? I really feel like just taking Nigel out for a drive. I really do. But there's not much petrol in it. Anyway, that's somewhat of a distraction, isn't it? Because we're talking about Eric. And what do we do with Eric? You see, you know, I don't want to see these cars getting wasted or scrapped or in the wrong hands at all anywhere. So when somebody comes down to the yard and says they've got this car, I will do what I can to actually acquire that car to try and make sure it goes somewhere good. But the trouble is, this sometimes happens. In fact, it happens most of the time when I don't have the ready dosh to actually even do anything about it. But this chap didn't really give me much choice. He just came here with the car. So my options are find the money myself, get Boaty to buy it, or find half of the money and do a collaboration thingy with Boaty. You know, Busted and Boaty do cars. Which one should I do? That's the end of this episode because we can't really go any further.